Hello. Here we are with a YouTube video. So, for those that are not aware, there was a recent balance patch for the June season. And so, with that, we are going to be making a tier list. We're going to be starting with GDI and then moving on to Nod. So, there will be two separate videos for that. If you're not aware that there was a balance patch, then I've just released a couple of videos talking about those balance patches. So, yeah, take a look at those. It's been about what now? Almost 10 days, probably 10ish days or so since the balance patch dropped, maybe. And yeah, we're pretty excited about how things have been going so far. So we're kind of just gonna rank everything there. Hopefully, you guys can like see here. I tried to zoom in a little bit as much as I could to, um, you know, show how everything's gonna go. But nonetheless, let's get it started. So before I truly start, what I would like to say is that all tech units kind of belong in D tier. So any tech unit as of right now feels like D tier. So what else is there? There's the Sandstorm, there's like the Zone Trooper, there's like the Titan, the Wolverine. There you go. This list does not have the battering ram, so I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a trash tier. If this list had the battering ram, that is where it would go. So let's just imagine that there is a picture of the battering ram here. It will go into the trash tier. Um, is that everything here? 8. I believe that is all. I mean, if I've missed any, then whatever. I'll just put them all in there. All right, so we've got that settled. Let's move on. What's the first one here? APC. APC seems pretty good right now, actually. In like a lot of GDI to GDI matchups, I'm assuming that the GDI is going to start to be going down as time goes. Oh, commanders as well. That's right. There's no commanders on this list. Um, we can probably talk about commanders at the end, just so I can. I mean, there's 5 for GDI and 4 for Nod, so we'll probably just give a quick breakdown. I'll talk about them though in detail for sure. Um, so yeah, we can do that. So yeah, APC is probably like B right now, I would say. There's not enough tanks right now. There's some Orca, which is definitely dangerous, especially when you think to like Suzaku APC. That could make APC a little more like non-viable, but as of right now, like it feels like a lot of people right now are still like interested in the whole patch. So that everyone's like playing Grands, and a lot of people are like playing infantry and stuff like that. So APC seems pretty good right now, like in a good spot, and I wouldn't be afraid to like put APC in a lot of slots um, for a deck, for a GGI deck for that matter. So I would probably say it's B, maybe C. Like you could kind of like be like half a little bit, like B minus or something. But I could see APC having some good gameplay here over the next couple months until. So the way that I'm forecasting this is that I think that tanks are gonna be like back for real, where with tanks and stuff. Because I mean, as good as Grens are for GDI, that they got the health buff and everything like that, I think that it's the anti-infantry for GDI is going to kind of change things, and we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. Let's move on. Drone Swarm. I mean, it could be again B or C, probably C tier for now. Against, I mean, now that GDI is the more powerful faction compared to Nod, I would say that Drone Swarm is going to be C tier, just because making Drone Swarm against GDI just kind of feels like a very sad thing to do because of Pitbull. Um, Otherwise, against Nod, it feels pretty good, like decent, where it could be seen as like a B tier player, but for now, because of how the balance has shifted towards GDI, I would probably say that Drone Swarm is kind of a C tier unit. Gren. Ooh, Gren's kind of hard to put. It could be up here as of right now, or it could be similar to. So this is maybe like A minus, B plus ish. You could probably put it in either or. It might be on the same tier as. It might be on the same tier as APC. To be honest with you, like with the Grand, and guys, don't be afraid to like let me know as well in real time and what you guys think of the unit. The Grand is definitely had, well, it's been buffed, so it's definitely seen an increase in play now with its buff, with its health buff. The only bad thing is that it still costs 70. So if it was like 70, if it was 60 cost similar to mutants, then I could for sure move it up to A, like guaranteed. But 70 cost kind of keeps it down a little bit. So I'm not that super huge on it. They might shift around with meta, but so far they aren't that popular yet. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that they're going to be like that popular. Like I think a lot of people, I mean myself included, I think that Gren RB, Gren Razorback might be like the way to go, but I truthfully think that Gren might not have a place once like Razorback is like full fledged in the meta. And we'll talk about Razorback later because I think Razorback is like amazing right now. So I would probably put it here A, like if I would put it at A if it was like at 60, but for right now because of the 70 cost, makes it a little bit harder to, move it anything past B for sure, for sure. It's decent against both factions, so I mean there's no, real complaints about it, so we'll leave it at that. What do we got next? Hammerhead. Do we really see Hammerhead anymore? It feels like we don't. I don't know where you would put Hammerhead, to be honest with you. Hammerhead is kind of a weird unit right now. It's kind of in a weird spot. The Phantom nerf, like my gut just says put it in C tier because with the Hammerhead, it feels like it doesn't have a good place right now because you're aside from like if you're facing off against GDI, most of the time for your anti-air you want to use Pitbull, and then against Nod, the only time you would really want to use use it against Nod is like what, Venom and Shade maybe. It's just overkill against like laser drones and stuff like that, right? Maybe Inferno actually. So um, with the upcoming Razorback, might become more popular if Razorback and Orca. Yeah, Razorback and Orca become more dominant. I mean, yeah, you'll start to see Razorback coming for sure. I think that everyone is going to agree on Razorback. So I think Razorback is for sure going to be up there. But even then, like we might even get back to like the fucking Titan, right? Serpus Titan deck or whatever again. That's what it's gonna come down to. Although I think that it should be like with Nod still with still so many people using Venom Shade. Like I think that could even be Sandstorm maybe. That's all like down the road, but as of right now, I would probably say C is probably about right um, for where it should be. I mean, there isn't anything that Pitbull can handle against for the most part. Maybe even, I mean, I don't know if you really want to rely on Talon anymore, but Pitbull and Missile for the most part is like capable anti-air while keeping you pretty low cost, and the 90 cost Hammerhead definitely does not do you good. What do we got next? We got the JJT. I guess JT now, right? I don't even know. This probably is also C tier as of right now. I mean, losing your jumping ability to like just freely get on pads is definitely. It might even be D tier, maybe. Like I think that the JJ may not have that much viability right now. It could be between C and D, honestly. Actually, I'm gonna put it to D tier. I don't really think it has that much viability as of right now. Aside from you'll want to be in control of the map in order to make the JJs, which is what you kind of need. But if you're like behind, like one of the biggest things with GDI, when you were behind, you can just make JJs to like at least get back on the pad, or like against like bike spam and stuff like that. That's where it was great because it could just fly over bikes and then fight bikes. But now it has to front face, like if you're behind and then you make the JJs, it can't jump over. It has to actually front face and attack that way, which I mean usually it was kind of comeback ish, but I mean it's very map dependent. Yeah, the map dependent as well, right? The speed, I guess, on like open, but like as of right now, even for like the Tiberium maps, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of maps where it's like absolutely like great. Like you're like, oh yeah, JGs are like amazing for this map. Is that true? Let me think. There's a big two pad map. I mean, side by side, maybe. Mm, yeah, I'd probably still keep them in D. Some people are saying C, which is fair enough, but I don't know if they're like uber, playable for the most part as of right now. The speed buff definitely helps, and that's fine. Where yes, they can be annoying if they can just like roam free, but for the most part, like I don't think that's going to be super great. They're also buffed by MSV, yes, but I mean that's still a movement buff, and they can't jump over anything. So be it. What do we got next? MG. I mean MG. I'd probably just have the same thing as. Um, I'd probably say the same thing as JJ's, except for the whole speed gimmick. They are pretty good against Nod, though. I will say. So no Harv. If you, for all you sickos out there that play no Harv MG, the MG does still have some viability against Nod. The biggest question right now in the game is what is Nod's anti-infantry unit of choice? And while Nod is trying to figure it out, MG has its place against Nod. Against GDI, against like a McNeil, or against Razorback or anything like that, um, it is definitely in the shitter. No Harder MG is better than before the patch. You can use McNeil, and also you can maybe play around with Rhino in your deck. Yeah, I mean you could probably do like now you could do Dog, Rhino, Pitbull, and then Rifleman, Missile, MG, and that would seem pretty good. But having your MG McNeil is like the absolute like feels bad worst, right? But you can also like have Razorback. I mean, yeah. Once we talk about Razorback, then we'll get right up there. Cookie Monster calling JGT's cheap fast grens. I mean, yeah, they are cheap fast grens, but now you have to be like in the lead of the game. Otherwise, if you're not in the lead of the game, then it's hard to come back. Um, you can McNeil back since the RMG deck was like the main deck. Yeah, I guess so. But spending 40, yeah, I guess. The downside to that is, I guess, depending on what's attacking the MG, right? And if you're actually playing McNeil itself, like you have to MG, you almost have to MG on the tile, or sorry, you have to McNeil on the tile that you're playing the MG in order to surround it, which is generally or surround it to protect it from being attacked, which is not great because usually you want to be offensive with your McNeil. Wouldn't that make sense? I think C is kind of a fair-ish assessment as of right now. We'll leave it at that. Missiles. I mean, this is either A or S, to be honest with you. Missiles are in missiles and lasers pretty much are going to be like should pretty much be in a lot of decks at this point in time. With the chuggy nerf, missiles are a huge part of the game now. So they could very well just be S tier straight up. Yeah, Kenny also agrees with that. I mean, any kind of like game breaking GDI combo that you can think of. Missile Razorback, Sniper Missile. Missiles are up there. I mean, before it felt like you could kind of get away from missiles as they weren't really needed, but now it kind of just feels like missiles are the way to go again. So I think S tier. Yeah, I would probably say they're S tier. Like they should probably be in every deck now. Every deck should have missile troops because that's kind of just like they're way too versatile. They help you come back a lot of the time. There usually isn't much on the field that's going to be challenging missiles that your other units can't, you know, destroy before you have your missiles back onto the pads and stuff like that. So I am tempted to put that in S. What do we have next? MLRS. Ooh, MLRS. I'm gonna go. I'm tempted between B and C right now. I would want to say that MLRS is probably closer to B tier than C tier. I feel like with MLRS right now and the way that the meta game has kind of played out, I mean, if people are going to start making APCs as well, and we do get tanks back up, then MLRS could, easily jump up to A. But as of right now, it feels like a pretty decent piece in your deck. Do you want to have? I mean, they're both 70 costs, right? I think you would much rather have the MLRS at that cost. So I think MLRS probably should be there. I mean, pretty good against spikes and pit bulls that you see all the time. And then what else are people using? I mean, now you're starting to see a variety of other War Factory, you know, units and stuff like that. The only issue with this is that sometimes people will be trolling, and then you face off against an MSV jump jet trooper right into your face. But I mean, that's like such a weird scenario to get right. So MLRS is also clutch versus Sling and APC. Yeah, for sure, Sling. Um, Sling it definitely helps. So yeah, I mean, B sounds about right for where it should be. I mean, depending on how the tank situation goes over the next little while, I could probably see going up to A, but B feels pretty good. What do we got next? The Mohawk gunship. I'd probably say C for the Mohawk. Would it be C? The Mohawk, while feeling very good again, I don't know actually. This might actually go up to B. If we get up to like I don't know though, missiles and lasers. Yeah, it takes missiles and lasers like forever to kill this damn thing to start off with. Um, and then it's 50. It doesn't die in one shot to the Phantom anymore. Getting it with the well, I mean, if you're gonna play Liang, then shit, be my guest. Um, yeah, I mean, it can kind of hold its own on its pad, right? Aside from like the only issue with this though actually is Banshee. You're probably gonna see a bigger prevalence of Banshee now. So this as Banshee starts to grow, this might go down one. But actually, I'm already tempted to do that. Only because of the Banshee, this goes into C tier. Only because of the Banshee. If with the Banshee rework now, it feels like Banshee feels amazing, and like against Nod, the Mohawk doesn't feel as great. Otherwise, I think I put it in B. But yeah, with the Banshee rework, actually, I think it goes in C. Kenny thinks it goes in C. All right, fair enough. There's a lot of stank as well. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll get into the Phantom and stank and all that stuff as well. Um, yeah, I guess I would say C. I mean, it is still pretty decent at holding pads, but I mean, in an air-to-air situation, right, against a Banshee or a Stank, or sorry, against a Banshee, it's not going to fight back, and a Stank can one-shot it and take it down. So, um, yeah, MSV. MSV is an interesting unit now because now it's just like a flat movement change, right? But I don't think that it really has a place in the metagame right now. So, does McNeil affect that interaction? Which interaction are you inquiring about? Why is all tech in D? All tech is in D because, I mean, like in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the game feels a little bit faster now, and getting to tech is like kind of a lot harder unless you're Pathlogon 2 who no harbs first missile and then goes straight into tech right after that. Stank versus Mohawk. I mean, McNeil changes all interactions for sure, yes. So if you put in a McNeil trap as to where the Stank should fire, then the Mohawk should win, actually, I think. The Mohawk should. I don't know if the Mohawk would win, actually. That's a good question. 10 seconds? 10 seconds is a long time to get shot for a Stank, because the Stank doesn't have a lot of health. I imagine the Mohawk actually wins. 90 cost to defeat 100 cost? That's a good question. We'll probably have to take a look at that. But yeah, MSV, I don't really think it has a super big place in the game right now, just strictly because of the movement speed boost only. It doesn't buff attack, it doesn't buff reload, it doesn't buff any of that fun stuff anymore. So because of that, I think it goes into D. Borka, I can probably say this might go into B, maybe C. This is like either or right now. Borka, I'm actually probably going to put in C. The Borka is really good at taking out like Fortress now, where it's just going to drop its load, so it drops the payload, and then you have to like bring it back to retreat it, to let it do its thing again. The bomb dropping is very fast. The 100 cost, so 10 less than the previous patch. Feels pretty good, but you have to be in control of that unit and that unit only, it feels like, in order to attack, and then you'll have to like long press your other units where you have to like really be careful to not kill your units as well, right? Kenny thinks it's B right now. There are enough people playing it. Are you putting it in B strictly because of the popularity of it right now? Because I mean, regardless of the popularity of it, I think it's still like a unit that's high, a little too high variance. Gazar also made a Borka deck in his rank 1 GDI. Fair enough. I mean, definitely, it feels like a unit that can kind of be very disruptive. I don't want to say like game breaking, but definitely it feels like it can be disruptive. Um, yeah, I just don't really think that it's gonna like get long term play, or it's gonna be a unit that people care about. While the Hammerhead is still down as well, it feels like it. I mean, yeah, while the Hammerhead is still down, it feels like Borka can be in a good spot, but as of right now, I don't also see the like super need to play it. So yeah, I think it's B. Kenny says B. Kenny says B. I say C. Mainly because the number one ranked guy right now that's playing it has a Borka deck. Fair enough. Orca, I don't know. I mean, I like Orca a lot right now. I think Orca should be in quite a few decks. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be lower than B, but Orca is the only real, well, non-tech burst fire unit aside from MLRS as well, I guess. It's air. It's got burst fire. Its damage against infantry is pretty good, which allows it to have its use when there's no more vehicles on the field. Um, I don't know. Orca feels really good, man. Like there's a lot of decks right now that are like running like, well, I mean, not obviously bike spamming and like buggy. There's a lot of buggy and Rhino as well. There's a little some people that are playing like buggy Scorp and like Rhino Pitbull and stuff like that. So Orca definitely feels pretty good against it right now. Um, this is just like my gut after like all the games that I've played. I feel like Orca should definitely be here. So I like Orca. I feel like it should be in quite a bit of decks right now. Um, yeah, I mean it's fragile, which definitely makes it something that you really have to be careful about, like just letting loose on the battlefield. But aside from that, like I mean, and then the whole situation with Banshee again, right? Where it's not going to fight back against a Banshee, so you really have to like make sure it's well protected. MSV should be in the trash pile. I don't know if I go that far. Alrighty, let's move on. Pitbull. No further questions. Then why have the trash pile? It's for the battering ram. So the battering ram, if there was a picture of the battering ram, it would go into the trash pile. But there is no picture of the battering ram. Pitbull, S tier. There really is no other tier it should be in. Pitbull should pretty much be standard in like all decks. Um, in terms of like how the rivals gameplay is developed, Pitbull feels amazing, is amazing, will probably always be amazing. Not as powerful as before, but with the changes now away from Giga being nerfed, well, sorry, with Giga now having less infantry damage and you being able to just push up infantry towards the Giga now, I feel like there's going to be less Giga play, which will allow for more War Factory gameplay as well now. And Pitbull's always just been like a monster, like Pitbull against like bikes and stuff like that has just been the great battle over time for rivals, and Pitbull has always been king, not a squad, so you can't like whittle it down or whatever. And generally feels like a great unit to use for, especially for like heavy anti-air and just air in general. Like Pitbull is just the king of everything for the most part. Anything to do with air and vehicles, your Pitbull is the one. So that's kind of why I like the Pitbull up in the S tier. Predator. I kind of want to like foreshadow it and just be like, or I want to like force Predator back into gameplay. Because if I'm gonna put Grens in B, then I have to put Predator in A. Because I think that the Predator is much better than the fucking Grenadier right now. So same cost, and now especially with Giga seeing less gameplay, like the Predator should fucking steamroll for GDI once again. Yeah, like it was sad playing Predator the last couple years because of the Giga just being overwhelming, but now that you're gonna start seeing less Gigas, Predator definitely deserves to be in A tier. Could probably be up in S as well, maybe, where you can like formulate a sweet deck with those 3 units. Um, but yeah, I think Predator should definitely be in A right now. No questions asked. Where we got next? Razorback. I mean, goddamn, man, let's go. If we out here, we really out here. And I think Razorback is back to being the king of GDI rivals. Um, I mean, there really isn't much more to be said about it. Like, improved health buff, so it's going to take a long time for it to die. Doesn't die to a phantom volley anymore. Against, like, Banshee or whatever, Banshee will take a long time to kill it. But, because what is it now? It should be 9. How many bike shots is it to kill it now? 9, right? At 2240 or whatever it is. You don't know if it's S, maybe A plus. I could see A plus, yeah, but I think that Razorback is truly like the one right now, like the ultimate like infantry killer, like the best infantry killer for GDI right now in the game is Razorback. The fact that it flies, the fact that it has Raider, I think it's like way up there. So Razorback is like such an amazing unit, and I think that we're gonna start to see Razorback take over again. So I'm placing it in S. Kenny says A plus. I mean, yeah, it maybe could be like interchange. I wouldn't even put it to A. Even putting it at A kind of undersells it. It's either you're putting it here or you're like just putting it in S. And for me, I would like it at S. I think it's pretty good. What do we got? Rhino. Where do we put Rhino? Rhino, I think goes maybe C-ish. While the great 3 vision, the 3 vision is now seen, and you can technically use Rhino as a starting unit. Um, these 2 units in A will have something to say about that. So, Janka Joe says, my opinion, Slingshot is too good for Razorback to be S. Well, we'll talk about commanders in a little bit, because, I mean, using commanders in a situation like this is kind of what's going to prop up a lot of these units. So yeah, Rhino, while it's pretty sweet that it has 3 units and can technically be used as your opening unit now, Orca and Predator, plus even Gren to a certain extent, will depress Rhino quite a bit in terms of its gameplay. Pretty good at like, you know, light air, light infantry, even like against bikes and stuff like that. It's pretty good, and it beats a buggy, so it can definitely hold its own. But and the speed boost as well is pretty good. But once you get to like mid game, late game, then I don't know. It's not as viable. Same could be said for Buggy, which we'll cover when we talk about Nod. What do we got? Shatterer. Oof. So I love the Shatterer. I really want to put it to like C. I think Shatter is probably. I mean, it could be C, but I'd probably say like C minus, D plus, not actually like C tier. The main issue with Shatter is the stun. So the stun is now broken down a lot more, and there's, I mean, again, there's Predator and there's Orca here that are propped up, which have seen significant gameplay where it doesn't feel super duper great. Great. It's too expensive. I think 50 is pretty good because of the Rhino. The Rhino's 30 and can kind of, hold its own for a 50 cost that hovers, by the way. I think that the Shatter is, decent, but there's, there's the Slingshot and there's a couple others that we haven't talked about yet for gameplay where you can use those instead of the Shatterer. For the Shatterer's job, it does its job now. Yes, I would agree with you, Kenny. But just like off of anything else, there's other options that you can play that are much better for what they do. So yeah, I mean, again, I would probably like go here or here, but by default, I'd probably say here. What are we at now? Shocks. Shocks. I mean, you kind of gotta keep shocks down now, right? So same reasoning as Rhino, and because the Razorback I think is like A or S, this might be like B minus C plus. Shocks are A. I don't really know if Shocks and Flames are going to be very viable if Razorback is going to be running around all the time. And Snipers, which we haven't even talked about yet. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is that I think that Razorback is going to take over the metagame, and that's why I put it at S tier. And so by default, because Razorback is going to take over the metagame, then I think that Shock should kind of be depressed on where they stand. Because, I mean, a flying anti-infantry unit is just going to absolutely wreak havoc on the field. Before patch, they were A. Yeah, I would say I would agree with that they were definitely up there. But, I mean, if Razorback's going to start coming around, and then Sniper's going to come around, well, then, I mean, Shocks are kind of just like left in the dust. Not sure why Shocks would go down, especially with for the Razorback, really. Like, it's a mixture of, well, what do you want to play as GDI for your anti-infantry unit? And then if that anti-infantry unit is the Razorback against a Shock, like if you had the choice between, like, not you specifically, yeah, obviously, but like if you had a choice between Razorback or Shock, you can make a lot more decks with Missile Razorback in comparison to Shock Tank. I'm just kind of low on them right now because, well, I guess as well, like me saying that, right? I'm like, oh, I think Razorbacks is going to be huge in the meta, and I'm like kind of prognosticating it at the same time. So, I mean, yeah, I guess in terms of my opinion, I'm doing that. I'm like lowering them already by default because I think that Razorback is going to take over. But as of right now, I guess because Razorback has not taken over, then fair enough. Yeah, they should still be up here. So for me, I think Razorback is going to be the one. Like people are just going to revert to once you see like enough snipers and enough like shocks, and you can just play Missile Razorback. to counter, or like Pred Razorback to counter. I don't know. I think that might be like the thing that changes the game. So, but yeah, fair enough. Until it gets there, then sure, we can still keep them up. But I would say that they're a little bit down just because I think right as of right now, Razorback is a much more viable option. Snipers are going to take over. If snipers are going to take over, wouldn't Razorback take over after that? I think that could be a fair assessment. If people are going to start playing snipers, wouldn't people just start playing Razorback as a direct result of that? Or do you think everyone's going to play and it's going to be sniper mirrors all the time? It's not the old RB. I mean, even still, same shit as Pitbull, right? People said, oh yeah, Pitbull is going to get nerfed. No one's going to play Pitbull. Yet here we are, still playing Pitbull after all these years. What do we got next? Slingshot? I don't know. Slingshot feels pretty decent right now. Like, especially in those like fortressy decks. Um, Slingshot feels like it's in a good spot right now. The main issue is Orca and Inferno for the most part, but like if you're making your little fortress and then you have your little Slingshot behind some units there, like especially for like Orca and like Drone Swarm, Banshee, and stuff like that. I think that Slingshot is very viable right now as an anti-air unit. Probably one of the better ones for GDI. It hasn't even been like nerfed or buffed or anything, right? It's just still been how it is right now. Like it didn't get affected in this last patch, I guess I should say. But I feel like with the indirect change, well, with the changes to the other units, it kind of feels indirectly affected. So I kind of like it where it is right now. What do we got left? We got 3 units. Snipers. Here we go. I guess by default they'll go up into A. So we just had a badass finals tournament. Well, we had a tournament yesterday, and in the finals it was just a badass sniper versus sniper standoff. It was very Wild Wild West style. Quasar and Huggy beat everyone with snipers and only play sniper mirrors against each other. Are snipers the most effective tactic available? I would say no. It's only effective because they're the ones that are playing it. So as of right now, again, yeah, Quasar and Huckinator had a very epic 7-game finals matchup where it was a lot of sniper on sniper action, Wild Wild West style. Um, sniper is a very high skill cap unit to play, so it's definitely not for the faint of heart. And you have to be like high APM for sure, and just like constantly moving the snipers around and protecting them at all costs, at the cost of your other units, actually, for sure, right? As long as you're keeping your snipers alive, everything else is good. Because now, yeah, I mean, it feels like the meta game in general is kind of more predicated towards inventory being good again, and so you've had trouble saying snipers are better than shocks. Yeah, I think generally, in terms of general population, for general rivals, shocks are much better than snipers. If people are bad at playing something, that doesn't mean it's less effective. That is true, because we all have different playstyles. But I mean, for those that can kind of get the playstyle down, it can be like the light bulb moment for them, right? Where they're like, "Holy shit, I understand what's happening," right? What definition? For me, I'm doing this tier list as a bit of where it's the strongest, where I think it's a mixture of the strongest and then a mixture of the most popular. I was originally going to like say that it should also be like future predicated, where I think that down the line, I think that these units should be the ones that should be in play that you'll see as the official like meta units and stuff like that. But as of right, like in general, for all these units, it's a mixture of like the units that are good now to play, as well as a mixture of like what units are generally acceptable in this current metagame. Keep it to June and make a new one in July. Well, nothing's going to change between June and July aside from the amount of stuff that people are playing. So, I mean, once we can formulate more data, then I would say making a new tier list like 3 to 6 months down the line would probably be much better. But doing one on a month-to-month basis, I don't think is great. This is the time. Yeah. I mean, that's just being a fucking optimist by all means. After patch, sure. I mean, if we're just okay, well, if we're just gonna say July for this month, then I mean, we can just do we can reconfigure everything to what? If it's just this month alone, I mean, this looks about right actually. I would just move the Razorback down one.
Fuck your life.
Bing bong. We have Talon. I mean, I don't know. Talon kind of feels really shitty now. Talon feels like I don't even know, man. Talon is like so out of place right now, and I don't even know why. Like Talon is supposed to be like the great thing about GDI, but Talon just feels so weird. Maybe because of the Rhino being propped up, but like whenever I look at the Talon now and I see a Talon on the field, it just kind of disgusts me, to be honest with you. I'm just like, why is this person playing a Talon? So I think it might be D. Like C might even be might be too generous. So yeah, Talon. I don't know, man. Talon. I don't know how it just fell off so hard, but just does not feel like a unit people should be using right now. And then what are we ending off with? Dogs. Dogs right now. So for the month of June, dogs would be what? Probably A or B. I'd probably just put them in B. Just, I mean, they're fast. They hold a pad for you pretty good. Um, they do their job, right? So here's how. Banshee caught up with Talon in anti-air, and it's never ever killed infantry. Is that so? I guess technically. I mean, my dogs, yeah, for sure. My dogs are OP. Dogs, I would probably say is B or A, so A minus, B plus, somewhere around there. Very good, viable starting unit. Oh, that reminds me then. Where's the militant at? Or rifleman. This list does not have a rifleman. Oh, here it is. They would probably be the same, right? Actually, I'd probably say militant is a bit worse than dogs. Dogs are probably a little bit better because they're more tanky. So I would probably do this. This is what I would do. Your dog would probably be an A tier opener. Rifleman not as great of an opener as of right now. So with that being said, I was looking for like blue the entire time and I couldn't find it. That's why. So yeah, I mean, I would probably put dogs up here. I mean, dog sniper is such a great combo. I don't imagine a lot of people are going to be using it, but people are using now missile sniper for whatever reason. But Dog Sniper is usually a good start for those of you who are looking to play Sniper. Rifleman is okay, but yeah, not as tanky. And then with the Sniper and Razorback that's currently out there, Riflemen kind of go down in value. So there you go. That is the GDI tier list. So S tier for sure. Greats, Missile, and Pitbull. A tier Orca, Pred, Razorback, Sniper, Dog. B tier APC, Gren, MLRS, Shock, Slingshot, Rifleman. C tier Drone Swarm, Hammerhead, MG, Mohawk, Orca, Rhino. And then D tier, all tech units, because tech is generally bad. JGT, MSV, Shatterer, and Talon. So this is possibly going to be a monthly feature. So I mean, if you are interested in the tier list for July, make sure you subscribe to the video, and then we'll take a look at how things are shaping up for July, and we'll go from there, see how things are progressing in the metagame, since this is just a fresh patch, and we're all still trying to get it through. So there's GDI. Stay tuned for Nod. Thank you for watching. If you don't care about Nod, then fair enough. Appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.